For 7 years, I funded my younger sister's medical education. Tuition, rent, exam fees, scrubs still folded in plastic. I told myself it was temporary, that once she became a doctor, balance would return to the universe. Instead, the day she graduated, she dragged me into court over our grandfather's inheritance and reminded me of my role. "Your job is to sacrifice," she said calmly. "That's your place in this family." My name is Ashley Cole. I'm 33, the oldest child, and the person everyone calls when something breaks but no one wants to admit it was broken. I work as a private investigator. Missing persons, background checks, fraud cases, quiet betrayals. I make a living noticing details people hope go unnoticed. In my family, that skill made me useful and expendable. If a problem appeared, I absorbed it. If someone needed help, I paid. 7 years of that. 7 years convincing myself it meant something. I learned how to live small. Instant noodles, cheap boots, a car that rattled like it was arguing with itself. I took side cases for cash when clients paid late. My mother called me resourceful when she needed help and difficult when I asked for limits. My father called it strength, which in our house always translated to financial endurance. The night everything cracked open began in my mother's kitchen. Fake marble counters, a refrigerator that hummed like it was anxious. I was chopping onions because she'd texted saying dinner help would be appreciated. My sister, Nora, swept in wearing confidence like perfume. Her white coat was folded over her arm, deliberate, ceremonial. "Take tomorrow off," my mother said, eyes on the sink. "You're driving Nora downtown. White coat ceremony." "I already cleared my afternoon," I said. Nora started opening mail on the counter as if she owned the room. "You'll be on time, right? Don't disappear like you do." "I've never missed," I replied. She didn't look up. "You miss plenty, you just cover it with money." The sting landed clean. I kept chopping. Onion tears are convenient that way. Then my mother added, softly but with precision, "Your job is to sacrifice. You're good at support, Ashley. Let your sister shine." Nora finally looked at me, expression professional and detached. "You're made for the background. It's not an insult, it's just reality." Something inside me tilted. My hands stayed steady, but the room felt crooked, like a picture frame knocked off level. I wanted to say 100 things. I said none. I cleaned the board, bagged the onions, and told myself to smile tomorrow. Applaud, swallow it. That same week, my grandfather died. The family group chat exploded with logistics and instructions. Nora wanted the inheritance hearing delayed until after her residency match. My mother suggested I handle the paperwork. I said okay. That was my first mistake. My grandfather, Henry, wasn't wealthy. He owned a paid-off house, a small lake cabin, modest investments, and an old Omega watch he wound every time he told a long story. He had a soft spot for me and zero patience for dishonesty. Once, he told me, "You can't fake the sound of an honest no." I didn't understand then. I would. When Nora got into medical school, our parents couldn't afford it. My father's back injury ended his job, not his hobbies. My mother claimed savings were tight, though the living room gained a new couch and chandelier. The loans went into my name temporarily. The rates were better. We'd refinance later, they said. Later became 7 years. I paid what aid didn't cover: rent gaps, phone bills, emergency deposits. I told myself I was investing in a person, not throwing money into a void. The family chat sounded like a corporate memo written by people allergic to accountability. Nora needed books, lab fees, prep courses, the good ones, she'd specify. I took surveillance gigs that froze my bones, sat through 8-hour stakeouts with bad coffee, learned which pawn shops gave fair prices when cash ran thin. At dinners, I ate quietly while plans were made without me. When the check came, my card slid across the table automatically. Then came residency match day, balloons, photos, pride soaked into every caption. I stood behind the camera. My mother leaned in. "About Grandpa's will, be reasonable." "Reasonable how?" "You know Nora sacrificed. She deserves the house." The will was read the following week in a stale conference room. Grandpa left the cabin to Nora and me jointly. The house to me, the watch to me. Investments split 60-40 in my favor, in recognition of services rendered. There was a letter addressed to me. "To the one who paid the bills he didn't owe," it read. My mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. My father asked how flexible the wording was. Nora went quiet. The next day, I was removed from the family chat. What I did receive was a call. "You should sign over the house," Nora said. "I'll pay you later." "How much?" "We'll figure it out. Do the right thing." "I want the house," I said. Her tone hardened. "Don't be selfish. Grandpa wanted what was best for me." He wrote it down. "You're obsessed with rules because you don't understand love." I said we'd talk later. 2 weeks later, I was served. Nora contested the will and accused me of financial manipulation. Photos of me visiting Grandpa, screenshots of texts, checks I'd written recaptioned as control. She called it clean, professional. "You can afford a lawyer," she said. "This isn't personal." Then she repeated it like a verdict. "Your job is to sacrifice. That's your place." That night, I opened my safe. Inside was an envelope holding 7 years of receipts, transfers, loan statements, and something she never thought I'd keep. I sat down and for the first time let myself feel angry all the way through. The inheritance hearing was scheduled for Thursday morning. And for once, I didn't plan to smile. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and old paper, the kind of place where families came apart politely. I wore the only suit I owned, reserved for funerals and serious clients. In the hallway outside the courtroom, my mother smoothed Nora's hair as if she were still a child. My father tried for reason. "We can settle this like adults," he said. Nora didn't look up from her phone. "Just don't be dramatic, Ashley." "I'll try," I said. Inside, the room was small. Wooden benches, a clock that ticked too loudly. The judge wore half-moon glasses and the expression of someone who had seen every version of greed wrapped in righteousness. Nora's lawyer went first. He was polished, confident, expensive. He spoke calmly about protection and concern. He said I had isolated our grandfather during his final years, controlled his finances, and leveraged support to manipulate his estate. Phrases like undue influence and fiduciary breach floated through the room. Exhibits were presented, photos of me at Grandpa's house, text messages asking if I could stop by with paperwork, copies of checks I had written, the tuition memos reframed as proof of dominance. None of it was false. It just wasn't the truth. I watched the judge's face carefully, no reaction. Then it was my turn. My attorney, Eva, asked one question first. "Where did your money go for the past 7 years?" To my sister, I said, "So she could become a doctor." "Why?" "Because I believed in her." Nora scoffed quietly. My mother's jaw tightened. Eva nodded and asked me to approach. I reached into my briefcase and removed a thick, battered envelope, secured with a rubber band. I handed it to the clerk. "Financial records," I said. "Every payment, every transfer, 7 years." The judge accepted it without comment. Ava gestured again. I produced a second envelope, smaller and yellowed. "This," I said, "is a letter my grandfather left for my sister. I never opened it." Nora frowned as the bailiff handed it to her. She broke the seal, scanned the page, and froze. The color drained from her face. Eva continued smoothly. "We also submit screenshots of messages in which Ms. Cole discussed keeping the loans in Ashley's name because she could guilt her later if needed. Additional messages reference intimidating my client into surrendering the house through legal pressure." Nora's attorney objected. Eva laid the foundation. The judge reviewed the pages slowly, then looked directly at Nora. "Do you contest authenticity?" A whispered conversation followed. "We reserve," her lawyer said. "Noted," the judge replied dryly. I cleared my throat. "Your Honor, may I read one line from my grandfather's letter to me?" The judge nodded. "If anyone ever tells you your job is to sacrifice," I read, "tell them no." Nora rolled her eyes. He liked sayings. The judge turned to her. "Miss Cole, summarize the letter you just read." She folded it carefully. "He said the house should go to Ashley because she doesn't ask for things, and that I've already been given enough." Silence filled the room. My mother whispered, "That's not what he meant." The judge didn't look at her. He looked at me. "One more piece of context," I said, pulling out my phone. "A video." The clip was short. My grandfather sat at his kitchen table, watch on his wrist. His voice was steady. "When you're a doctor," he said to Nora off camera, "you'll pay Ashley back every dollar." Time-stamped, 2 years before his death. "That was a joke," Nora said quickly. "We joked like that." The judge leaned back, exhaled slowly, and then laughed. Not cruelly, not loudly, just enough. "Counsel," he said, composing himself, "your client's position is not sustainable." I recommend discussing dismissal unless she wants to fund a very expensive lesson. Nora stared at the table. My mother reached for her and missed. We settled in the hallway. Nora withdrew all claims, agreed not to interfere with my work. In exchange, I declined to pursue sanctions. My mother called it a misunderstanding. You told me my place was to sacrifice, I said. She flinched. Nora wouldn't meet my eyes. You humiliated me. You sued me. We parted like strangers with shared DNA. That afternoon, I drove to the house. The steps sagged. The porch light flickered. I sat on the floor with my grandfather's watch in my hand and listened to it tick. The silence felt earned. I ordered pizza without checking coupons, turned my phone face down. For the first time in years, nothing was asking something from me. The next weeks passed quietly. I fixed my car, took only one new case, a woman trying to find her stolen dog. We found it. She cried. I didn't bill the last hour. Nora showed up once with coffee and a hopeful look. I didn't let her in. I paid you back, she said. You dropped an invoice, I replied. That's not the same. She left the coffee, I poured it out. My parents kept reaching, I didn't respond. The house slowly became mine. I fixed the porch step, installed a motion light, opened a savings account labeled Cabin Fund. I also called the loan servicer, and with the inheritance, I paid everything off. Watching the balance hit zero felt like shedding a weight I'd forgotten wasn't part of my body. Work changed. I stopped taking dirty jobs, took more custody and elder abuse cases. Turns out I'm good at listening to people taught not to expect belief. A month later, Nora emailed, "Residency is brutal. Can we talk?" I replied once, "I'm not your reset button. Send a repayment plan." I attached the spreadsheet. She didn't answer. Then the payments started. Small, uneven, silent, enough to prove she knew. And that was when I realized something important. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was standing. The payments came quietly, like admissions made under breath. 500 here, 300 there. Once, 1,000 after an extra shift. No explanations, no apologies, just transfers with short memos, late, sorry, car trouble. It wasn't enough to undo 7 years, but it was enough to confirm what I'd already accepted. She knew. My mother sent group texts like nothing had changed. Holidays, birthdays, casual optimism packaged with balloon emojis. I read some, ignored most. My father left voicemails about starting fresh, about how families bend but don't break. I saved one message, not because I believed it, but because I missed the version of him that once existed in my head. The house settled into me slowly. I found my grandfather's old screwdriver set in a drawer filled with rubber bands and loose change. I fixed the sagging front step, replaced the porch light with a motion sensor, not out of fear, but because visible boundaries calm me. Occupational habit. On a Tuesday afternoon, I drove to the lake cabin alone. I brought groceries, coffee, and silence. I read my grandfather's letter again, wound the watch and let it tick until the room felt full. I said one word out loud. No. It landed clean. Not angry, not cruel, just honest. Life after no surprised me. It was louder, food tasted better. Conversations felt less like negotiations. Friends I'd kept postponing became anchors instead of distractions. I stopped living on hold. Work shifted too. I stopped accepting cases that paid fast but felt wrong. I took custody disputes, elder neglect, people who'd been trained not to expect help. Listening came easily. Belief came faster. One morning, I saw Nora across the street outside the hospital. She looked exhausted, eyes hollow, shoulders tight. She noticed me and froze. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she gave a small nod. I nodded back. That was all. 2 weeks later, an envelope slid through my mail slot. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $8,000 and a note in Nora's handwriting. For the spring, I'll keep going. No apology, no hearts, just acknowledgement in numbers. I deposited it into the cabin fund and made myself a grilled cheese that would offend any nutritionist. I ate it on the porch while the motion light clicked on and off as moths tested the night. People still tell me I'm strong. They mean I endured, that I kept paying even when it hurt. But strength isn't carrying other people's furniture on your back until your knees give out. Strength is putting it down, locking your door, saying no without bleeding explanations. My mother still sends messages. Sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't. My father called once to say their lawn needed work. I gave him the number for a service. He laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. We ended the call politely, like neighbors. Nora kept paying. Slowly. Irregularly. Never enough to erase the past, but enough to honor it. Once she texted, "Busy week. Nights. Hope you're okay." I didn't reply. Months passed. The cabin fund grew. The house felt settled. I slept better. I stopped flinching at my phone. One afternoon, while organizing files, I found the envelope from court, the receipts, statements, screenshots. I hesitated, then filed it under closed. Not forgiven, just finished. That night, I sat on the porch and listened to the neighborhood breathe. The watch ticked softly in my palm. I thought closure would feel dramatic. A confrontation, a speech, a moment. Instead, it was ordinary, quiet. A life no longer arranged around someone else's expectations. I stopped being the woman who existed for emergencies. I started answering my own calls. And that finally felt like inheritance enough.